They got one with rollers now, so they like that.
I was noticing that. I like that.
Steve, did you
That's
fix
an
that?
idea we'll have
This
to.
man here, he's a handyman.
Yeah, we'll have to incorporate that idea back at Flipping somewhere because we got ones heavy too. So, anyway, as I said, I'm Tim, and this is Megan Goins. She's from our church, and we were part of a mission team that went to Hazleton, Pennsylvania. The date shows June the 22nd through the 28th of this year, and we just had a wonderful time. God blessed in so many different ways, and we want to first just thank y'all for allowing us to come and share just a little bit about our trip this week. One of the things that I do just want to kind of start off with was while we were there, and we'll talk a little more about the devotions that we had each night up there, but one of the nights we were having devotions, one of our youth that was with us, she had read something that day, and she said, I want to share this with y'all. Somehow or another, it just struck a chord with me, and it's a quote. I kind of laughed when I told our church, I said, you very seldom hear the preacher get up and quote Dr. Seuss, but this is a Dr. Seuss quote. It says, sometimes we never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. And that just struck a chord with me because this was my first mission trip to go with the Surrey Baptist Association or a group like that. I had been with our youth on several different trips, but never a trip quite like this one. And some of the things that took place there are etched in my mind, and surely they have become a memory to me that has touched my heart and made me look at things a lot different than I did even before I went there. So I'm thankful for that, and so that's kind of start with me. Megan, do you have anything you want to say?
I can say this is my third mission trip. I went to the beach with the youth from the church, and then I also went to Mallory, West Virginia with the Surrey Baptist Association last year, and then this is my third, Hazleton, Pennsylvania this year with the Baptist Association.
There was, I forgot the amount, but 5 churches. I believe it was 5 churches that were represented from our association. We had some from Salem, some from Jessup Grove, who really kind of started this trip. And then our church was Flipping Memorial, and you can come on in, you're not going to bother me. And then we had Ladonia and West Woodville and Siloam. I guess there were 6 churches involved. And so we had four youth, then 4 women and 6 men. And 4 of them was preachers. Now that was a trip, folks. I can tell you that. So anyway, we're going to show you some pictures, kind of talk about those, and then as we go along, just some different things that might come along.
If you just hold on just one second, our nursery people want to hear you talking.
Oh,
if you don't
okay.
mind using an over the ear mic, I'm going to turn the sound system on.
No
So
problem.
that they
I'll
can
get it
hear
on
you.
the picture.
No problem.
You got the batteries in there?
The nursery is full, if anybody wants to volunteer in there. Children everywhere.
Anyway,
Yes,
if you'll make sure the TV's on back there,
They did.
they'll be able to see it.
they got it.
Okay. Now both of us are going to be talking. Is
That's
that
fine,
what it
if you
picks
just
up?
share it, you can just hold it if you
Okay.
want to. But there's 4, I think there were 4 adults in there, so maybe they won't overrun them, but. Okay.
Yeah, the nursery's full tonight. Yeah.
Good. You just wanna hold it, that's the easiest thing. If you want to wear it, I don't have it. It's all right.
It's a green light.
Yeah.
Green light on.
Green light's on. All right. Can you hear like that, or will it be better?
It'd really be better if you go ahead and
Because now she's going to be talking off and on as well. So.
Let me look right quick. Yeah, you go ahead. Let me see if I can come up with the mic.
All right.
It's fine if they can't hear me.
We can hear you.
This ain't fair. This ain't fair. That might be the simplest way.
There you go.
All right. Well, while he's doing that, I will say this, that for Hazleton, Pennsylvania, one of the things that I found interesting for me was in that church, in that city, that town, there is really no church presence, or very little church presence. We had, they say there's 3 Baptist churches in that whole town of Hazleton, and only 2 of them is really very active at all in trying to reach people. And one of them, of course, is Hazleton Baptist Church. They are, it's a very dominant Catholic area too. So you run into some Catholic people, Catholic beliefs as you're there working through that time. This is Hazleton Baptist Church, or excuse me, it's Baptist even though it's called Hazleton Community Church, and it's the church there. The church planter is the pastor. He's also invites teens in each and every summer to do work, mission type work, and that's where we actually stay. These right here sides, the sanctuary's in the center. These sides right here are classrooms right down the side. They've got in the back is the kind of fellowship hall type situation. We stayed in the classrooms over here. They had showers over here so we could go shower. And then we actually ate and stuff in the fellowship building, so, or fellowship hall. The pastor there is Michael Nerdler, and he does a whole lot of work, certainly planting churches and working there in that area. So. Go ahead if you want to start some of that.
Each day we had a word of a day. It started us off with our morning devotion, and it was really helpful to each and every one of us. Sunday was the word go, which was the day we left. Monday was work. Tuesday was love. Wednesday was light. Thursday was trust. And Friday was rejoice. Keith Gerald was the one that done this every morning. He's from Jessup Grove. He's a deacon there.
And each one of these, it can kind of give us, and as we go through the days, as I said, Sunday was the day we actually traveled. It's on bus. It was about a 9-hour trip. Time we stopped and ate lunch and restroom and things like that. And then on Monday we actually went out to prep for the backyard Bible clubs. That's what we went to do. Was backyard Bible clubs and then some surveys in and around not just Hazleton, but some of the other towns that are close by. And so we prepped work on Monday by going out and just passing out some posters early Monday morning to let everybody know we were going to be doing a backyard Bible club in the park there. And then that afternoon we went to a school and we did the work in the school. So let's move on. We'll get some of those.
Hazleton Community. This is just some different pictures about showing the Hazleton community. This is downtown Hazleton sign. This was across the road from the park. It's a street. You notice the houses are really close together.
One of the things you talk about when you look at those houses, the houses are so close and the people are so just really packed in, but there's so much aloneness up there. They really don't have a lot of interaction with their neighbors. They don't interact as like going to churches or anything like that. They're just there to live and there to stay, and it's kind of a sad existence, if you will. All right, he's going to fix you up.
Never mind the man behind the curtain.
All right.
This is another picture from across the street from the park. And this is what he talked about. We worked at the Emmanuel Christian School Monday afternoon. This was the outside of the school.
The school was built in 1913, I believe it was. And it's still in use today as a Christian school.
This is the inside. This up to the top where the steps are, you see, it's a stage. We got all the stuff off the walls and put everything to the center. They're going to paint the wall. And that's me on the left and Keegan on the right. He's also from our church and he went with us. That's the school sign. Nurse Keegan, we sprayed Roundup. One of the things we did was he sprayed Roundup in the where the sign was. It was like a little concrete area with mulch in it. He sprayed it to get rid of the weeds. This was upstairs on the 3rd floor. We brought all the stuff out in the halls that we could, and this was just the hallway, and there's classrooms on both sides.
When we got done upstairs, we were moving about. I just happened to look in one of the classrooms, and they had these chalk drawings on the chalkboard, and it was just kind of intriguing. And so I stepped in and I took some pictures, and I think maybe you got another one of the other two. There was 4 chalk drawings, and that was just interesting. I said that took some talent. This basically is the team. There's a few that's missing from it. We kind of laughed at our church and told them, said, no, the only time we got pictures was when we were sitting down. And that was because that was the only time we had a chance to get everybody's picture, because everybody was working. But in this hallway right here, we actually took all the stuff off of the walls. We were there prepping that school building for some people to come in the next week and do some sheetrock work and some painting work and just a lot of renovations to their school. And they're still in a very desperate need there for some work to get that school back, get it in a shape that I don't want to send my children to, you know.
This is some pictures from our backyard Bible club. It took place at East End Playground, and we done this Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings from 9 a.m. to 12. This was the sign that was out by the park. It was pretty much put together in 1991, as the sign says. The first thing they done every day was a Bible story. Greg Swarm led the Bible study, and he's from Salem Baptist Church. And Greg is in the yellow jacket on the top right picture.
This is the last day. This is Dr. Blakeland, and this is the largest group that we had any of the days. But this is the day that he actually presented the gospel, and we had 1 adult and 3 children to make a profession of faith.
And we also had one more adult that someone from our that went with us recognized some noise and went down to a house, and one got saved.
I have to share this. The lady made a profession of faith. The adult lady is that one right there. You can see what I'm talking about. She'd had some trouble, some issues. She just actually had been out of prison very long. But as Billy presented the gospel, and you saw her the intent on her face as she was listening to what was being said. And so when he presented the gospel, and then he asked them to pray, they prayed, and when he said, anybody that prayed to receive Christ would raise your hand, she was the first to get her hand up, and with some great excitement. And so after that, we were doing some games and stuff we'll talk a little more about. They actually had some one-on-one time with everyone that did make a profession of faith and give them some information. And of course, Michael Nerger has got their information to hopefully get them there into the church, because this playground was 4 miles from church maybe.
The next thing they did was music. Tanya and Mindy Benfield, that was a church we didn't mention, Fellowship Missionary Baptist. Tanya and Mindy, and they are on the picture up here. That's Tanya, and that's Mindy. And they done some really neat songs with the children. I'm going to talk about the songs they changed.
My mind is went blank on how they changed it. But what was his name? Yeah. What hymnals do y'all have?
Red Church.
Red Church. Oh, it's not in that one. There's one. There's a ton. Is it Jesus Loves Me?
I think so. And instead of saying like every color, black and white.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Jesus loves little children. That's it. I knew it was one. And instead of saying,
Every,
I'd
she
have to
done
say,
every color, every race.
they're covered by His grace.
Yes.
And so it was neat, but it's in one of the church hymnals that way, and that's how we
Maybe on
found it.
Broadman.
It's not the Broadman, it's the new Baptist
Baptist
hymnal they
hymnal.
call it. Yeah. Mhm.
They done activities. Pat Blakely, Billy's wife, she's right there in the white jacket. And Debbie Swarm, that's Greg's wife, she goes to Salem. She's in the red jacket. They done activities. And they worked with the memory verse. They had building blocks, and they had the kids to put the memory verse together by the building blocks. And the one to see who could do it the quickest. There was 2 groups. Crafts was me, Mindy, Alicia, and Sarah. That's all 4 of the youth, the ladies, a part of the youth. We done crafts every day. We done about 2 to 3 crafts with every kid every day. Recreation was Preacher Tim, Keith, Gerald from Jessup Grove, and Keegan from our church. You want to talk a little bit?
We did just different things. We tried to tie the games in with the lessons. The first lesson here was just getting them to follow directions and how we obey God. And of course, that one was talking about how God takes care of us and keeps us up. He lifts us up. And what the object of that game was to try to knock the beach ball around the circle and not let it fall on the ground. Then the last one we did on the last day was how you had to listen to God's voice and obey. And we set down like little red squares, and we made an obstacle course with it. And then we took and blindfolded the children, and then we sat and we told them, take a big step forward, and then a step to the left. In other words, to work them through the minefield. But they had to listen to our voice, and they had to obey exactly what we were saying, and just teach them how we listen to God and how we obey His voice.
And the thing about the day they done the beach ball game, there was exactly 3 beach balls that Preacher Tim had bought, and there was 3 families represented, so each child got to take a beach ball home.
You'd have thought you gave them $1 million.
Wanda Long from Jessup Grove, she did refreshments. They had individual cookies and chips, and they had like the little hubby drinks is what they had to drink. It was all individual. On Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon, we done door-to-door surveying in Berwick and Lewisburg. This was the easiest 2 of the 3 days. This is a picture of the house in Berwick.
Now what we did is that we went up like 2 teams. There was actually 3 there, and then Megan and I were on this side of the street. And we walked up the street and knocked on the door, and we would ask them some questions if they would allow us to. And then we talked with them, then we would ask them if we could pray with them. And this was the one thing kind of stood out in my mind. In fact, in Berwick, we hardly surveyed anybody. We only got about 3 that would even talk to us. They were never rude, but they just said no thank you and they'd move on. But the thing that kind of got my heart was that when you ask them to pray for them, or could you pray with them or for them, they would say no. And I thought, how, if you just went to a door here in Surrey County and knocked on the door, the majority of people would at least let you pray with them if you wasn't doing anything else. But they would just politely say no thank you and move on. This is Megan just moving down. I just got one from the back to kind of show you the street that we were working on.
And that was me. I was going up to the door to do the survey. You want to tell them about the notebook?
Go ahead.
Well, Preacher Tim, I think, was a little shocked. He said that it made him a little nervous going to the doors, and I said, well, I'll do it. So
She just just grabbed the notebook out of my hand and said, "Here, I'll do it."
I had experience doing it, so it wasn't nothing new. This is in Lewisburg. This was kind of a nicer uptown class of people. This is just us preparing. The boy that led us along Lewisburg, his name was
No, that wasn't it. He's actually from Virginia, right there, right close by.
I might think of it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we passed out information about a new church that was coming to Pottsville. And Pottsville was a very interesting town. We done this Thursday evening.
Do not let this street deceive you. The street there that we were on is just about straight up. We did at least think enough to go and start at the top and walk down. This was a 2.5 mile street straight down. They were side by side. There were 800 residents that they knew of, and we carted all 800 of those residents that afternoon in about 2 hours walking down the street. The biggest thing, if you'll notice here, I kind of laughed and said, the next time that I go on a trip like this, I'm going to be a lot more observant when they give me an opportunity to choose where I want to go. Because we were on this street, we knew we were walking down, but this not only goes that way down, it also goes that way up, this way. And the other street, when they asked me, I said, oh, it don't make any difference. So the other team went to the other side. They had one step on each porch to step up and put a card. And you see right here, we went up and down. And a lot of these are duplexes. Those are two houses right there. But they wouldn't have the door close enough because all we were doing was putting cards in the door. And the doors weren't close enough you could reach across and do it. So you had to go up and down, up and down. So it was an interesting evening.
There's another picture. On Friday morning and afternoon, we stayed out all day. We had a fun day. The first thing we went to was the Mennonite Information Center.
What this is they have, there was a pastor down in Georgia who built a life-size replica of the tabernacle. And at some point, his ministry, I think he was about ready to pass away, so he donated it to this group. And this group went in and they built this information center. And then behind this curtain, which would be just like the curtain of the tabernacle, that'd be out in the wilderness, they've got the replica of the sea, they call it, where they did the altars, the sacrifices. They had some cut-out figures showing the different types of things that they had to do in that area. And then the next one, then this was a painting inside that showed how the actual camp was set up. Here would be your curtain around this. This would be your outside of your tabernacle, and then that would go into the Holy of Holy Places. And then once we were inside, there was a little area right here where they showed us all of this. But then when we went back in what they had set aside as the Holy of Holies, they wouldn't let us do any pictures. So we didn't have any pictures of that. But there's the statues of the different things that they would do as far as the sacrifice. The washing of the hands, or preparing themselves, the laying on the hands of the sheep, the Passover sheep. Not the Passover, but the scapegoat. That scapegoat. And then, of course, our last stop for that day was Hershey's Chocolate World. So.
You smell that for miles and miles.
Yeah, you sure can. This right here was mostly our group right in here. This, some of these right here, these right here.
Each night we had a Spirit Award. We had Spirit Award staff, which I think was pretty much one-to-long, took care of that from Jessup Grove. All of the youth got a certificate of recognition. Me, Mindy, Alicia, Sarah, and that's supposed to be Keegan. how that got there, but, Preacher Tim got one for in grateful appreciation. I got one for the I Got This award.
They called me and said, what kind of award can we give Megan? And that's when I told them, she said, I got this, so give it to that one.
And Keegan got the He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother award. And that was simply, him and Billy worked together on Pottsville, and he was out walking Billy.
Yeah, kind of pulling Billy up. But in all fairness, they drove the bus, Billy did. And so he took us all to the top and started, and him and Keegan went to the bottom and walked their way back up the hill. So he deserves some recognition for that.
This was all of us youth getting our award. There's Preacher Tim and Barry getting his award. And Preacher Tim presented my award to me. And there's Barry and Keegan getting his award. Thank you for serving the Lord. And we had 5 souls total that were saved.
Tim, I got a question.
Okay.
Organizing of where you were going and what you were doing. How did you work that out?
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, it started as a mission trip for Jessup Grove Baptist Church, and they didn't have enough participation, so they brought it to the Mission Partners Committee through Surrey Baptist, and they picked this trip up. And so they organized it through the pastor there, Michael Nerger. Actually, they went up on an early trip to kind of understand exactly what was taking place, but he's very helpful because he has teams coming in, well, I reckon several weeks during the summer, because Union Baptist Church out of Yadkin County had just been there the week before, and then they had another group that was coming in the week after we left to do some survey and do backyard Bible clubs, and they did it in different parts, in different areas of the town, so it wasn't like they kept duplicating in the same area. It was spread out over the whole town. But the organization really kind of took place through Barry Clement and Keith Gerald at Jessup Grove, and then Billy. The 3 of those worked out the logistics and getting everything together. The team, that was kind of the amazing part of the team, and is how God brought each one of the individuals together. We talked about it on several occasions. Everybody was very talented, but it seemed like everybody had a talent just for the area that they needed to work in, especially the Backyard Bible Club. And honest, I've never seen a group of people come together and have everything as organized as this group of people were. They were ready for this trip. We met on a week and a half before we actually left. And when we got there that evening to sit down, I think they were looking at, we'd actually made another meeting plan, because they were thinking, well, everybody won't have everything together. But every area, they had everything together, they had everything bought, they had everything planned out, and so we sat there and said, we're ready to go. It was amazing to see how God worked that out. Any other questions?
Tim, this area down Hazleton, isn't that up next to the Poconos?
It's not far from the Poconos.
That's
yes.
what I was saying, because I've been to Burrow because Jimmy Spencer, I used to work with Jimmy.
Yeah, okay.
He's from.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, now, Hazleton is just back south of Berwick just a little bit.
Right.
But not far. I think it took us 45 minutes maybe to get from Hazleton to Berwick.
I know we used to, like I say, I used to go to Poconos, racing up there. And I know I was just telling Terry and Wanda, I'd see those signs to Hazleton, but I never really knew exactly where it was at. I thought that was in the general area.
Yeah, it sure is.
Why is the houses built like that? Is there a specific reason, or just something that caught on? And
I reckon it's just something caught on, but that's what it appears to be, that was just their best use of land, and, getting that many people crowded together.
when you see some of this, sometimes it's because a mining company
Right.
has built
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of houses just
Right.
alike, but it doesn't look like it's all alike.
No, they're not alike. It's just something that it looks like they did. What amazed me was just driving by some of those houses, and seeing how close they were, because I was sitting there, they had siding on them, and I was like, how did they even get in there and put siding on them? I mean, if you built one house, I could see that, but when you built the second one, how would you even get in there? You know, because I'm honest, I'm a pretty good sized youngin, but I couldn't have got in between those houses.
They can hear you fuss at your wife, but
Yeah. Oh, I guarantee that.
It's to neighbors by stepping in one end window and go out there.
That's it. You sure could. You sure could. Any?
Is the cost of the trip for you somewhat reasonable?
The
We've
yeah.
had some interest in going on these trips before, but, you know, sometimes the cost is very
Right.
expensive.
This trip cost $350,
That's doable.
and that was everything. I spent except for what I spent at Hershey, which wasn't a whole lot, but everything else was actually paid for. Even our meals going and coming.
They
We
even
just-
gave us
yeah.
$20 to
Yeah, they
spend at
actually
Hershey.
give us $20 to spend at Hershey out of the $350. So
But you had your place to stay, right?
the church, we stayed in the church, which cost us nothing, and then they bought the food, and Pat and Debbie stayed back when we'd go out and do surveys in the evening. They would stay back and cook our suppers, and
Had
we had
different
good
people.
suppers.
And they had different people to
Yeah.
do sandwiches and stuff during the day, just
And-
rotate around.
And different people did cook the breakfast, and we had good breakfast. When we ate well, I mean, you know.
They had to take a blow up car.
Yeah, everybody took like cots or mattresses or whatever, and stayed in our rooms.
You took everything you needed. You took your washcloths, I mean, it's not like no hotel you go to that has a house and stuff. You take all the stuff that would be in a hotel for yourself. Just pack up your house.
I had to take the cost down.
Yeah, that was it. There was no, that was the cost. That's what it kept the cost way down.
Motel eat you up.
Yeah. Really, the cost was for our food. I mean, that was really about what we were paying for was our food and the gas up there, because Salem's generously allowed us to use one of their buses, and Fellowship let us use their trailer, and so we were able to load most everything in the trailer, and then we had the bus to pretty much ride comfortably in up there, and so the fuel cost of that was right expensive. So that's kind of where the cost comes in. But it is a very doable trip for most anybody, you know. And, I'm praying that the partnership committee takes a look at going back maybe again next year to that general area, because that's a very needed area. It kind of gave me a heart for that kind of area, that mission area of the United States, because they just didn't know. One of the things, and I was going to share this. Mindy, whose dad is the pastor there at Fellowship, Chris Benfield, Mindy Benfield. She made a statement one night, I guess the last night that we had the backyard Bible clubs, and she said, I've worked in and around church all my life, and she said, I've helped the children. And she said, especially at our vacation Bible school, she said, I'd bring them in, even children that didn't go to church regular. And I'd say something about singing Jesus Loves Me, and they knew what I was talking about. There was children there that absolutely had never heard the name Jesus. Never heard it. They didn't have a clue who Moses was. They didn't have a clue who Daniel was in the Bible. We can't even comprehend that here, really. We can't. But you know what really scares me is I see that if the Lord stays He's coming, we could be in that same situation in 20 years. That people around here, children around here, wouldn't know who Jesus is. And when Mindy said that, it really touched my heart. And that's when I began to realize that that's an area that I'd love to go back to. I'd love to go back and see people reach with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I know we can go a lot of places. There's places right here in Surrey County, right here in this area, in my community, and the community where we serve as pastor, but there's just something about stepping away from our home community. And I think sometimes it helps us grow. It helps us be better servants here when we'll step into an area like that and get out of our comfort zone. and do some things we're not used to. Because I'm gonna be honest, I've never been one to go knock on the door and just sit and talk to somebody. But it got me out of my comfort zone, and it sure made me grow a lot in my faith. Any other questions?
What is it, where do they get most of their income from?
It's a very poor area. They just go to work in some mills is what I kind of picked up from up there. There's just not a lot of industry right now. I think they're actually kind of going downhill a lot like a lot of us are. But a lot of the industries are even leaving. So that's where it's such a poverty-stricken area. Because you can tell just by the buildings and things that it is a very poor area. One of the things that we did talk about, the church that we stayed in, had a lot of issues, some building issues. And I know at one time they were kind of thinking about possibly a team going up from Surrey that maybe help with some building issues up there. Any others?
Kind of goes back to prove the fact that if you trust Jesus Christ and live for Him, not only is it spiritually, but it'll also help you otherwise.
Oh yes, exactly.
Communities and everything that's
Very much.
all works together with Christ.
It does. It sure does. It sure does.
How long ride was it?
We rode about, the trip was about 9 hours. Of course, that's stopping, we stopped and ate lunch on Sunday going up, and we stopped a couple of 3 times for the rest areas. Outside that, it was pretty much probably a good 8 hours on the bus. I think Billy and them said that they drove it, they went on a pre-trip up there and actually drove a car. And I think he said about that 7.5 hours on the car.
And that's like straight driving.
Yeah, that was pretty much straight driving. I said I was glad I didn't go on that trip because they left that morning early. They drove up there, did all the survey work, got everything ready, got in the car, and drove back home the same day. I said, no, not me. I will say this. Billy Blakely drove our bus all the way up there, all the time was there, and all the way back. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. He took us and kept us safe, and I was thankful for that. So. But one of the things that I want to share too is how God moved in so many different ways on the trip. One of the things that really amazed me was the weather. And you say, what do you mean by the weather? Well, here we are to do a backyard Bible club at a park. We go out on Monday and we go up through the streets right next to the park and we put out the cards and said we're going to have this backyard Bible club. We get up on Tuesday morning and it's absolutely pouring buckets of rain. We're kind of looking at each other like, what do we do? You know. So we crawled on the bus. I guess a little bit of faith happened there. We crawled on the bus and we took that little trip over there and honestly you couldn't hardly see the road for the rain beating the windshield. And we pulled up in front of the park and we stopped. We were actually, and she didn't have a picture of this, but right to the side of it was grass and playground area like that. And that was initially where we were supposed to be. And so we just decided we'd just pull up and set up our stuff on the blacktop. So with the rain, that worked out good. So we set it, that's where we set up all 3 days, was on the blacktops. But it was just amazing to see how God stopped the rain. And in all the mission work we did up there, we had some rain all the time we were there, but it never rained when we needed to be outside walking and doing those kind of things. It was just amazing to see how God worked in that particular situation. And how that everything just went so smoothly. Most of them, everybody said that every mission trip they ever went on said it's just going to be crazy. Said something goes wrong, but it was amazing how God put this team together, and everybody worked, and everything went so smoothly. just to see God move. And also at the playground, there was a lady there by the name of Carol. It was a quite outspoken lady that brought her grandchild down every day. But one of the things she told us was, she said, I don't understand. And said, what don't you understand, Carol? She said, every morning there's some teenage boys that gets down here about 6:30 and they will not let anybody get on this playground. 3 days we went to that playground and not a soul there. Just God in control and gave us that opportunity. So it was a lot of amazing things and how God touched. And I have to say, when I say God touched in so many ways, I think personally, because I got up on Sunday morning. Now reminded I'm going to be over recreation at a backyard Bible club, and we're going to be walking, doing door-to-door surveys for 3 days, and we're also walking to prepare for the backyard Bible club. I woke up that morning with a severe gout attack, and I thought, what am I going to do? There is absolutely no way I can walk. I started praying and taking my medicine all the way up there, and by Monday morning, I ain't gonna say I was completely pain-free, but I could walk and I could do what I had to do, and by the end of the week, I was fine. And that was just God work at work.
What was the age of your child?
About, I don't know that I actually heard their actual ages, but I'm gonna say somewhere around 8 to 12. Maybe a little older than that, because the two older girls were probably a little older than that, wasn't it?
Maybe about 13 or 14.
Yeah. So it was somebody that kind of, we felt like that they knew what they were doing. It wasn't just some of the little ones that raised their hand. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk with them individually to kind of make sure they understood what they were doing and the decision they were making.
And Greg Swarm is a really good storyteller to children that have never heard the gospel. He relates everything that he can to get them to understand.
Greg is very talented in that. He is very talented. And I said it was funny that he was one of the couple of guys on the team that weren't preachers, but he probably did the best job of teaching. So. I know he did the best job of teaching. So. Any other questions?
How did they accept you, maybe as a young person, just went out and working and teaching like that? How did those people, those kids react? Did they interact with you more?
I think with us doing crafts and with Keegan down, I think that they do, that the youngins do flock more to the teenagers and the younger people as, like role models to help them around.
One of the things I would ask, there was a little boy, it's actually his sister, that came down. Well, actually they brought a little baby sister or brother one. And they were there Monday or Tuesday and Wednesday. But for whatever reason, they weren't back on Thursday. We don't know where they went. And, but they were so interested. And my heart said that they would make a decision to follow Christ. And so I don't know, I just pray that maybe somebody went back in that area, or the seed that were planted, God will use it somehow to bring them to know Jesus as their Savior, because they were very interested in what was being presented, very interested.
So you all sowed the seed, somebody else needs to water, and God can give them.
That's exactly right, exactly.
Were most of those Mennonite type people in that area?
It was kind of outside of that area. No, right where we weren't, they weren't Mennonites. No,
We in Shenandoah Valley,
yeah,
we had some chicken growers that were Mennonite, and they're very clannish.
right.
And you have to be careful with what you interact with them.
Right, exactly. Where we were at was more just, they weren't Mennonites. They were more just, like us, pretty much regular people. So, quote unquote, I know that sounds a little bit off, but they weren't, in fact, they were very unclannish, because they really didn't interact with very few people there. At least that's what Carol told us, and the pastor there told us. And he did say, I think I talked with Barry since that I think there's been a couple of the families that were there that have actually started to come to the church a few times since then. So we're thankful for that.